Alright boys, I've got this HF2 out here. And I'll probably turn the camera off eventually. We'll put the 9-inch fast multi-frequency coil over this just to see what it does. I've not swept this. This is an Indian head penny. And you see what it's got under it there, under the plane of that Indian head. You know, I started showing this with a Deus 2 under target plane masking. Very few YouTubers that I've watched have, rarely do they talk about or show this. Alright, well guess what? This coil, the HF2 coil there, you see that thing? That's one of its strengths with that higher frequency employed, okay? Now remember, an Indian head is not a high conductor per se. I guess it would be higher than it is lower, but it's not as high as a dime or a quarter. Of course, it's smaller than a quarter, bigger than a dime. You see it there. That's final generation Indian head, not a fatty. A fatty would give better results there because it would be a lower conductor. All right. So when you're out there sweeping your coil around, yeah, there can be iron above the plane, on the plane, and below the plane. It can interfere with your detector's capabilities to detect that find with a audio signature that would make you dig it. Alright. So I may put the 9-inch coil on this later in this video. We're going to look at this HF2 coil right now. And this is for both the men and the women out there, okay? Now, here's sensitive program. Silencer 2. Reactivity 3. Default is 2.5. I turned it to 3. Alright, frequency max. That's multi-frequency 53 kilohertz. 3 tones. You hear that? Now, a lot of people might see what I'm doing here and say, oh, well, that ain't shit, sharpshooter. Any detector would find that damn thing in the wild. Well, you better be thinking again about that shit, and I'm going to show you, okay? So that's 53 band multi-frequency. That's a no-brainer in a relic site, boys, okay? Here's 29.9 band. Well, let's come over here. We're going to sweep through here. Okay, we don't get nothing there. Let's change bands back to 53. We're getting a little bit. Now I'm going to 89. You see that? A little shaky right there, even in 89, okay? Here's sensitive FT. .53 kilohertz band, multi-frequency. Hear how strong that signal is right there. Alright. You've seen enough of that probably. Let's go over here to mono program. Here's 43 kilohertz. Single frequency. It's not as strong a signal as that multi-frequency, is it? How about over here at 43 kilohertz? See what happens? Very little there, huh? 43 kilohertz. Alright, now I'm going to change. That's 43 kilohertz at 6.6 dis, which is usable in the wild. You hear that? Now I'm not going to change anything but frequency. I'm going to go to 63. 63.2. Here's a 7 disc. You hear that? $43 again. You hear that? Okay. So what if we go down here? 19.4, speed 3, disc 6.1. The silencer 0, 19.4 kilohertz. So that would suggest what? Again, using one of these, what I call more conventional machines, AT Pros with small coils, F75s with small coils, then 15, 13, 14 kilohertz machines. What would they do on that? Well, I know what this machine does at 19.4 kilohertz. Maybe you can see that in that camera there. It's not focused too good. All right. So that's that under target plane masking. To the naked eye, somebody sees that may think, you know, if you're new to detecting, oh, that coin is above the iron. No problemo. Well, you're watching 19.4 kilohertz. Whiff. 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 Now, how high can I go with this frequency? There's 28.9 kilohertz. 6.1 DS. 28.9 kilohertz. Just a measly peck. What about over here? You hear that? 28.9 single frequency. Notice there's no frequency max over that. Let's shift this frequency up. There's 34.3. Disc 6.1. Silencer 0. 34.3. Now remember, I know where that is. You won't know where it is in the wild. Look here. 34.3. You don't hear shit on that damn Indian head, do you? We're going up. 39 kilohertz. Now the signal's starting to get a little better, huh? You see that? So if you've got a 20 kilohertz single frequency running machine with a small coil, would you hit that in the wild? What are the odds? Well, sharpshooter wouldn't be betting very much. I wouldn't bet 2 cents on it. How's that sound? I'm going to turn this camera off. We're going to put the fast multi-frequency 9-inch coil on that, okay? All right, we've got the boys and girls. We've got the fast multi-frequency coil, 9 inches, okay? They make 11, and they make an 11 by 13 as well, if you're interested. That Indian head and those nails haven't moved, you know, and that Indian head is above the plane of those nails. Now, there's 4 of those nails, okay? I'm in 45.45 single frequency ops on this machine, mono program. Speed 4, I'm at 6.1 disc, which that probably isn't usable in the wild in high iron sights. But that's what I'm going to show. What happens on this Indian head. Speed 4. Frequency 45.4. You hear that. So you wouldn't probably dig that Indian head on your best day running mono program on this machine. At least I wouldn't. Speed 5. Similar coil height is swept with that mighty HF2 coil. You hear that. We're getting out of mono program. This is still beta 3.03. Sensitive FT. We're going to let the silencer on this down to 1. Alright. 6.8 disc. Reactivity 4. You see what happens, boys? You are SOL. with this coil on this machine. Speed 4, speed 5. Sizer 0. This is 6.8 discs. Slow sweep. Me even knowing where that thing's at. Okay, the machine is working. You can hear the iron tone. Now, what about a sizer -1? You're still SOL. How about that shit? Okay? Now, I'm not trying to get you to buy that coil. And nobody's told me to do any videos with that HF2 coil or this coil. Ever! Nobody's never told me not to do any videos. Ever! I'm just showing you what the potential is of that coil over this coil, possibly in the wild on something like that. That would be considered a tough test, okay? Indian head above nails. Now, I will go ahead and show you here. You see the old Indian head. That's the old crusty thing. There's about how high that Indian head is above those nails. Sort of put it into perspective looking at the Indian head. You know how wide one of those are. There's the nails. Could that exist in the wild? Now, the distance that coin is, or the non-ferrous target above the iron, is going to be a driver. The conductivity level of the coin will be a driver. The size of the iron will be a driver. The number of nails could be a driver. The orientation of the iron nails can be a driver. But on that, we got to see, didn't we? Head to head. The No BS by the Shakedown Man. Have a nice day.